Hey guys, it's me, Tailman, also known as Happy Prefer, and welcome to episode 3, I believe, of the pistol tutorial. Now, this one's going to be different and kind of weird because this is going to be, I think, the last time you ever use this kind of concept and all that before things change. But basically, this is the open ejection port, and this is not going to have the slide lock tutorial or anything like that included. It is going to be its own thing, while the next one's going to be a bit different than this one. So this is going to be like a different type of way to do things if you don't want to have a slide lock on your pistol or anything like that. But this is basically just how to get the basic fundamentals of an open ejection port on your pistol. I'm not going to go into slide lock. That's a completely different tutorial in the future. So let's get started. So before we begin, you want to, the next part's going to be open ejection port. And on a pistol, what that is basically on a real gun, where the bullet would come out and basically eject the bullet and feed a new one in, all while the slide's basically doing that stuff. And basically, the way you can tell where to normally put an open ejection port on a pistol is, well, I'm going to be using this one. Normally, the open ejection port would normally be around the area where the magazine kind of feeds into the chamber, like midway through. So, like about on the grip of this gun, the open ejection port should be around this area, as seen on this airsoft pistol, as so. By the way, what we want to do first is pretty much draw out a open ejection port, basically. So this is up to you, basically, but for me, normally where I like to put it is about midway where the trigger guard would be, around midway through the frame of the gun. So around this area right here is where I'd normally put my open ejection port, right around this area right here, along with the whole, you know, controls for the slide lock and all that stuff. But basically, just for this tutorial, I'm going to try and keep that around in this area right here. So basically what you want to do is you want to draw a open rectangle right in this area, but not too far down here, because you want some structural stability in the slide. Granted, this is not using a very strong spring. It'll help in the future to at least put some space there so you can reinforce it later, because there's going to be a lot of stress when you start putting a slide lock and this part wants to go forward, you're keeping it here. So just keep that in mind. Basically, there's not going to be a slide lock, so it's going to be simple. But I'm just going to draw a nice little rectangle right here. Don't worry about making it too big or too small. This is just an exercise, so the only way you can get better at doing these kind of things is doing it a lot, and you know, hopefully you can learn some things. But normally, you also have to remember, just in the future, if you do put ejection ports, is you also have to be mindful of the bullet they fire, because most ejection ports should be big enough to eject a non-spent round, meaning a bullet that has not been fired. So for example, an ejection port, for example, should normally be big enough to eject a non-fired bullet. So in this case, for example, maybe a 9mm or something. This would normally, most ejection ports should be big enough to eject a non-fired bullet most of the time. But you know, and basically just keep that in mind most of the time. So it's all about experience and learning a feel for the guns, basically. So just draw a rectangle, and most of the time it can either end here on the top or slightly go here. Just for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to keep it just this one area, but also you have to remember, like, it all depends on the gun you're making. So there we go. Let me cut that out and we'll see what we do next. There we go. Now you're probably wondering, where's the open ejection port? Well, this is just half of it, but this is basically the fundamental idea. And believe it or not, you don't actually need to move the gun back that much forward. The only way they can do it so much is because, you know, the location of the pistol bolt. But basically, this is the pistol right here. The open ejection port should, like I said, shouldn't be no bigger than this most of the time. But, you know, again, it depends on your gun. So just keep that in mind. Next, what we're going to do is basically move this part, since, assuming you didn't do that, but the way I'm going to do it for saving of time, is basically we're just going to take this and move it a bit forward to match the criteria, and then make a piece of paper that would go flush with the slide here to make it look more cleaner, and then we'll see there. So there we go. Take the magazine. So basically I'm just going to move this up a bit forward to where it matches, and then we'll see what happens from there. Wondering, if you have watched the basic slide tutorial, then your bolt or your barrel assembly should look like this. Keep in mind that it's not going to stay like this permanently. This is just to show, and hopefully you guys can just practice until you get to this point. Because when I introduce the slide release mechanism slash field strip ability, they're both going to be in the same tutorial. You're going to have to learn to make this a straighter box, but for now, this is what to expect. But for now, just practice this little simple step right here, and basically match up the point to where here it goes and here it goes, right here, and then there we go. But yeah, just tape that right here or something in the future. We'll see. Before we begin, I also remembered, you actually want to cut a channel for the magazine to show through. Why we even call this the open ejection port. So basically what I normally do here is try and eyeball the point where this part would meet, or imagine it. In this case, I'm going to try and imagine it right around here. It'll take practice, don't worry. If you don't get it right the first time, don't worry. I didn't get good overnight. This is what you're seeing is pretty much what I've learned throughout the years of my life. I've learned, and various techniques and all that. And basically, I don't want to make it too big, but because there's not exactly scaled to size for any pistol, but about that size, basically 1 or 2 inches. Could be good as a basic start. And basically what you do is just when you start this, you just want to cut that open and do that. So let me cut this open real quick. There we go. There is an open port for the magazine to show through, and there we go. There is your magazine. I'll put a bullet there later, but right now we just want to get the basics out of the way. So there we go. I had to snip off a piece of the barrel here earlier because it was sticking into the chamber. But then again, remember, this is not perfect. This is just a general idea, so it might not match up perfectly. That's not what I'm trying to do here. I'm just trying to showcase the whole concept and the whole process of how things like this would work. So basically, let me put the barrel back on. Now, this is normal. This is how I used to have my guns be able to be field stripped. I don't do that technique anymore. I actually have it be able to, like, pull out the safety, or not safety. I keep confusing that for the safety. The slide release here, and then pull it out like 1911 style. But basically, there we go, and all that. But this is pretty much the basic idea, as you can see here. There we go, and now you have open ejection port. And you could I'll put a bullet there later, but there we go. Now what we're gonna do next is basically add a piece of paper where it'll cover this up and make it look more nicer. And cut off the barrel here, and then put a bullet in this magazine, so it looks pretty cool, and we'll be done. So there we go. And let me just do that real quick, and we'll see what happens next. Okay, so everything's been trimmed up and ready to go. Next, what you want to do is make the well, normally on a real gun, the whole bolt area would be an actual milled out piece of metal that's square and that has the barrel inserted. We're not doing that, so we're gonna have to make it look like it was, even though really it's not. But basically, what I'm trying to say is make the little what would be a piece of the bolt here that's been machined out. We had to replicate that with just a piece of paper to make it look like it's neater, or really it's just a 2-in piece of paper that's been folded over it. And there we go. Now basically the way I'd like to do this is basically I want the piece of paper to measure, or if not, get to this point right here, as you can see, like a little bit past up to here where I'm drawing, and a little bit past up to here. That way, what happens in the future is when you want to pull it back, what happens is sometimes on my guns, if I make it too short, is the piece of paper would actually get caught here and you can't move it back. What make it a bit longer than usual does is it eliminates that by completely going into here, and so the thing can move back and forth freely without getting caught. Hold on, my sister's calling me. Basically, to make it more simpler is what I basically like to do is make the piece of bolt bigger than here. So I already took the liberty of measuring it out. As you can see here, where I marked out this piece of paper, it's bigger than the bolt, so there's no way that the bolt or this piece of paper would get caught on the slide and keep it from moving back. So let me cut that out real quick, fold it, and I'll show you what I mean. Well, here we go. Basically what I'm doing with this piece of paper is I'm going to just match it to the point where it barely meets the bottom of the slide typically. And then what I do here is when I fold it, I like to imagine as if the slide's underneath and try and make it minimalistic as possible. So like that. So cut that out. And normally what I do next here is I make it the size of both sides, so that way when you do it, oh wow, did that. So when you cut it out, it'll do that. and you can just trim to what it is, or just fold it over, whatever you choose. That way it'll help ease up the thing and ease things up a bit and make it more streamlined. So let me do that right now, and I'll cut and fit it to this magazine, or sorry, the slide here, and we'll see what goes on from there. As you can see here, although it's not perfect because, you know, I'm just trying to show the basic concept. There we go. Now it looks a little bit more cleaner, and it looked like it would be much more appropriate of the thing. I mean, it depends on the gun. I mean, like I said, it all depends on the gun you're making. I'm just making a traditional gun with an actual, where there's a, where the slide or the bolt, or, sorry, the bolt assembly, not bolt, the chamber area would be much more flush with the slide compared to an M9 Beretta, where design is pretty much like this, where it's just open up here, or on a Walther PPK, where the ejection port isn't even a square, it's like a little tiny oval cutout. It basically depends on the gun. I'm just trying to be really generic with the gun here, so basically I'm trying to show you the process of an idea of what it would do, but they all use the same concept. So there we go. Now you have yourself a gun with a open ejection port area type thing. Next is just to show you how to make a bullet and this, and then we'll be good to go. Bullets, I'm just gonna basically make it where it fits within that little chamber in the open. So basically, for this magazine, the bullet's gonna be no bigger than this, just for the sake of ease of things. It's not gonna be any bigger than that. So it's probably like an inch. I mean, realistically, it'll be a bit bigger, but you know, just to show things. So there we go. Here is the shell casing, and for a bullet, you're gonna have to have the nose piece. Basically, you want to make the shell casing and then the nose of the bullet. So the way I do that normally is, after I do that, I grab something like some toilet paper here. This stuff is really malleable, but also serves as like filler, which is good because you don't need to use as much paper. Basically, you normally don't need more than this. And what I do next is I grab a piece of paper, like this one right here, and I make a square out of it. You'll see why. I take a square, I just rip up a nice little square right here. What I do next is I try to imagine as if this part is not there yet, as if it's the bullet's there, but then the way it works is you take your paper and you pretty much just wrap it like this, make it rounded to the piece of the ball of whatever you use, in this case toilet paper, and just shove it in there. I mean, it's not the best example, but it's pretty much what I do for all my guns. And there we go, you got yourself a nice little basic bullet. Now you're going to actually have to go back in here and tape it over or adhere it with adhesive. I'm just showing you the basic process of how I make my bullets. There's nothing to them. The only reason why they look cool is because this is a bit more yellow, and then I get a paper bag and then use that as the nose instead of this white paper stuff. But you get the basic idea. Drop the bullet. But there we go. Next, we're going to fix it to the magazine and we'll be good to go. Magazine, I decided to just pretty much just use this piece of paper I used to make the nose of the bullet. So for the magazine, you just pretty much just put it in the magazine right here, right so, and then you don't have to make it too tight, but tight enough to where it can fit in the magazine snugly, and then just do that. Just pretty much fold it into the magazine. So in this case, I'm going to fold it right here. Make it a bit smaller, why not? There we go. And then put it into the magazine as so. And then you got yourself a closed box magazine. Next, I'm just going to clean it up a bit and then show you how to fix the bullet, and we'll be good. So, we got the magazine here. And basically, next what you have to do is just to fix it to the magazine as so. So, just grab a basic strip of paper, of tape, and basically cut a strip that could be not too big, but just big enough to fix the barrel to the bullet to the magazine as such. You don't have to be too perfect. There you go. I'm just showing you the general consensus of doing so. And there we go. If there's any parts that stick up, feel free to just basically if you want to make them flush with the magazine, just flush them out, or by flush them out I mean cut them off and then flush it out. There we go. And as you can see here now, the magazine has a bullet in it, And there we go. Now you can see the bullet. Now it doesn't match up to the, unfortunately, it doesn't match up precisely to the barrel, because I just decided to add this in last minute. What you normally do is, in conjunction of doing this technique and all that, you would plan ahead and see how much clearance you would need for the magazine to basically stick up and to meet the chamber of the bullet. Of the gun, because normally the thing would be have a more lower profile in real life normally, but I made this gun intentionally oversized to hopefully just, you know, generalize and make things more to the point. But at least you can now safely say you know how to put a bullet in a chamber and have a gun that has an open ejection port. And unfortunately, somehow during the process, I made the gun not as drop free. So if you want to fix that, just literally just take a penny or a coin and such and tape it to the inside, and then you'll have your problem solved. I don't have a point on me right now, but it works. Just take my word for it. So there we go. So there we go. That is an open ejection port pistol with a removable magazine with a fake bullet in it. For why not? And there we go. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. And there we go. Hope you guys learn something for this tutorial, and I will see you guys in the next one. I think the next one will probably be a slide release or slide log release thing, and basically that's going to be completely different. You're going to have to learn completely different technique, but if you're willing to learn, all you basically have to do in the future one is adjust this part right here, this little block, to one that has a built-in pin recess in it, and you'll see when I do the tutorial. But basically, point is, there we go. That is a pistol with an open ejection port with the move and slide and a bullet as a nice added bonus. This was actually just on the spot. I didn't plan for this, so there we go. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. My name is Tailman. Always happy I prefer. And as always, you guys, be chill.